Okay, so we are live. Just waiting for the YouTube version to go live as well, which it is now. Can you say something, Bonnie?
Test. Can you hear me?
Which it is now. Can you say something, Mac?
Hello? Working?
So I can hear you.
You can?
Through the YouTube stream. Let me see if I can hear you through StreamYard. Say something again.
Test. Not working
That's
on
okay.
StreamYard.
So thanks everyone for joining so far. I've got Bonnie-tastic with me. And obviously it's Pokemonster here. Sorry for the delay in starting the stream. I am having some audio issues clearly because Max or Bonnie is able to put sound through and I can hear him on YouTube, but for whatever reason, I can't hear him through StreamYard. So if the noise gets a bit annoying, let me know. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just mute myself whenever Max is talking and then we'll see. So yeah, so special guest on the stream, first live, Bonnie-tastic. Do you want to introduce yourself?
What's going on, people? It's Bonnie-tastic. I've been good friends with Thomas here for probably about 4 years now. Met through Pokemon, and yeah, we talk Pokemon all day, every day, especially Japanese. And yeah, I'm glad to be here. Let's talk some cards. You hear me okay?
So there's a bit of a delay between the YouTube and StreamYard, which is why whenever you stop speaking, I'm gonna wait a few seconds. But yeah, I can see a few regular commenters on my videos here. So thanks a lot for joining, guys. Jay Quaza, Monkey, Fox McCloud. I probably missed some other people. So we are gonna chat through some topics that I've prepared. But obviously, if you've got any questions that you want us to discuss or speak about, just put them through in the chat and we will try our best to answer it. So I guess the first thing we're doing is this is a Japanese Pokemon focused live stream, although we can talk about anything really. So how do you feel the Japanese market is doing right now?
Well, I feel like it's actually starting to pick up a little bit off the back of how well English is doing. It was like a lot of 2024, I was a little bit worried about how Japanese was getting on. But you know, the last couple months, I've seen a lot of sets come out and not be under retail, which is a good sign. It shows that people want this stuff again. But I think that the set quality has improved as well since since Paradise Dragona. I feel like the sets have been getting better each time. I actually prefer Super Electric Breaker to Battle Partners, but it's just my opinion. And I feel like given what sets we know are coming this year, it's going to continue to be quite strong. I think we're going to have a good year for Japanese and a very good year for English by the looks of things. What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, sorry. There's just going to be a constant delay when I do this, but yeah, I agree. I think Paradise Dragona was the turning point, and that's why I was so excited when it came out. Just looking at the box art, you know, Latios, Alolan, Executor showing up, just gave us a good sign because I think the sets before that, apart from Crimson Haze, were, well, even with Crimson Haze, but like the other sets around it were very focused on the DLC, and I just think that the DLC itself was nowhere near as strong as the one for Sword and Shield. I just in terms of the Pokemon designs, comparing like Calyrex and Urshifu, they're way better, in my opinion, than the Loyal 3 and Pekarunt. So sets focused around those Pokemon were never going to do well for me. So yeah, I think it has been picking up since Paradise Dragona, Supercharged Breaker, and I think people were still had this mindset that Japanese, including myself, wasn't really going to go anywhere, because with Terastal Festival, if you looked at the weeks leading up to release, you could still get up to 5 boxes per person on the Pokemon Center Japan, and you could still loop that every week, basically. But as we got closer to the release date, things started getting a bit crazy, and Terastal Festival started selling out everywhere. And when it restocked on the Pokemon Center Japan on release day or just after, it was limited to 5 packs per person. So I think that's really what kicked everything off. And looking at what we've got coming up, it looks like it's not going to slow down. But what set are you most excited about this year if you take away the glory of Team Rocket?
None.
Out of the ones we know, do you know which ones are coming out?
I mean, yeah, I'd have to go with the black and white set.
Yeah, sorry, just bear with me. Take away.
Yeah, I'd have to say the black and white sets from what we know. Just 'cause I love Unova. I think that Gen 5 is probably the most unique generation. I'm excited to see what they do. If they can pull it off like they pulled off 151, it'd be fantastic. But honestly, just Rocket. I just really care about Rocket. I think Team Rocket Returns is probably the best set ever made, and so I'm naturally going to be really excited for that. I'm worried about how difficult that's going to be to acquire, given how even bad sets at the moment in English are hard to get a hold of. So I'm worried about how Rocket is going to do. I feel like on the English side, we're going to struggle to get that anywhere near retail. That's just not going to happen. But we'll see. If they really mess the set up, I don't know. How do you mess up Rocket? Everyone's expectations are going to be very high, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, so I think the expectations are going to be high, but just based on, to be honest, Pokemon have been making some decisions that collectors haven't really liked in recent sets or in Scarlet and Violet with the SARs and ARs. If you just think about the Paradise Dragona, Latias, and Latios, one being an AR and one being an SAR, a lot of people were not happy about that. I think they've gotten a lot of things right, though, with the storyboard elements of the chase cards. So then the chase is not just focused to one card, but it's focused on getting the full sets. So I think based on past history, I don't see Pokemon getting it wrong. But as you say, the only thing that could make it go wrong is people's expectations. But just based on the evidence that we have of how they ramp up things. And as I've said, for Sword and Shield, I think the peak of Sword and Shield was like the second year with Eevee Heroes Blue Sky Stream, but we didn't necessarily know it at the time. But in the case of Scarlet and Violet, I think we definitely know that, well, I think this is going to be the best year out of the 3. And the first year was not bad by any means. It was much better than a lot of the previous generations that we've had. I think people forget that. You get 3 extra ARs per box instead of 2 standard for like V's VMAXs. So based on past history, I think Pokemon are going to get it right, and it's just going to keep ramping up. They seem to be switching up things pretty well. I mean, with the enhanced booster box, for example, for Journey Together, it's just like a small change, but that just makes the product a little bit more desirable, collectible. With Terastal Festival, I think they did a pretty good job. What do you think about Terastal Festival as a set, I guess?
I like it. I think it looks like a really fun set to open. I've not opened any of it. It looks better than, Shiny Star V. It looks better to me than VMAX Climax. I really like V-Star Universe. I think that set's very, very good. But we've spoke about this before. The last set of the generation, the last high class set, typically overshadows all the other high class sets. So, whatever we get at the end of this year, I think that's going to be crazy. It's gonna, it could outdo Terastal Festival. But yeah, Terastal Festival looks great. My nitpick with it at first was why are the evolutions even there, other than to help sell the box? Because it looked to me like all the other SARs are different versions of previous existing SARs in the Scarlet Violet era, and I was confused why the evolutions were even there. But they it works. It helps sell the boxes. It is a good set. It's undeniable. And one day, hopefully, if it is like retail again, I would like to open a box. But we'll see. I'm not very good at opening stuff. You know that. You know that.
Yeah, you definitely aren't good at opening stuff, I think. Yeah, so something that's really interesting about Terastal Festival is, as you say, they I don't have all of the information in my head, but I'm pretty sure every single high class set before, or at least the ultra modern ones from Sword and Shield and Shiny Treasure, the chase cards in there are usually based on EX cards or V cards that have been released before. Whereas it seems like with Terastal Festival, they made new evolution cards to make the set sell well. Now, I don't think that matters too much at the end of the day in terms of how the set is regarded in the future. Like, no one's going to say, they just tried to fit in evolution, so then it's not a good set, right? People are just going to look at the cards that are inside and think it's a good set. However, I do think that as strong as the evolutions are, the set is lacking a little bit outside of that. So the good cards in there that I think people are going to like are the Roaring Moon SAR, the Ceruledge SAR, the Raging Bolt SAR, but there's a lot of ones that people wouldn't necessarily like and are potentially some better and some worse rehashes of existing SARs, like the Terapagos SAR is nowhere near as good as the one that came out in Stellar Miracle.
Yeah.
The 4 masks are better, but they are still Ogerpon masks, and as I said, the DLCs aren't very popular. Now, I think Terastal Festival is doing decent. It's probably about at the right price range. But yeah, going back to what's happening this year, Monkey's just put in a comment that there's going to be no supply left and we'll have to buy Albanian cards or something. What do you think the supply situation is going to be like for Japanese, for people who maybe want to open packs? And what prices do you think people are going to be paying on Japanese Glory of Team Rocket, black and white?
Well, this is the thing. This morning, you messaged me saying they're reprinting Violet, Clayburst, and Snow Hazard again. If they can do that, if they've got the facilities to do that and the time to do that, surely they have got the facilities and time to print, a lot more Glory of Team Rocket. They must be anticipating that this is going to be popular. And I hope that they can print, to demand with this stuff, because if they don't, this is going to get so ridiculously expensive. A lot of people won't be able to experience the set. It will leave a bad taste in their mouth. I just hope they're anticipating how popular it's going to be and are ready for it, because it's not going to be fun for anyone other than scalpers. If that set comes out and it's 200 a box, maybe they should be focusing, some of this Violet reprint. I mean, Violet came out how long ago? 2 years ago. I would prefer it if they were putting that time and energy into this Rocket set, just printing enough of it, because I don't know, man. I feel like they shouldn't be going back to the very start of Scarlet Violet at this point. I'm glad as well, because I get to pick up more Violet and Clayburst for cheap, but I want to make sure that I can get some Glory of Team Rocket for a reasonable price. We'll have to wait and see.
Project 18 is saying, hi, Project 18. Project 18 is saying Korea market is slow. Is that for Korean cards, I'm guessing? Just because looking at Japanese, it's going kind of, well, it's doing well, not going absolutely crazy, I think. Just taking you back on the points that you're making. Yeah, they are reprinting. Well, I only found this out based on Pokepurican's Instagram, and he's like someone based in Japan that does stuff. So I haven't verified this independently myself. Monkey, I think Rocket is going to be a main set. I'm not sure though. So if we look at 151, for example, it was like a special expansion set, which did things kind of differently because it's not a high class set, but it's also not got the standard configuration of packs. In Sword and Shield, I think they did like special brick box sets, which were like 20 packs of 6 cards, like Battle Region, Incandescent Arcana, Dark Phantasma. For Team Rocket, I don't know what they're going to do. I think on the English side, it is going to be a main set though. So based on that, I don't know if we can extrapolate from that if the English side is going to be a normal set, the Japanese side is also going to be a normal set. And I just want to make sure I don't get my terminology wrong here, because there are quite a few special expansion sets in Japanese which are just like the SV number and A, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they change the pull rates or the packs. So for example, Triplet Beat is a special expansion set because it's not a main expansion set, and that's still 30 packs and 5 cards per pack. So based on the fact that it looks like it's going to be a main set for English, I'd expect it to be a main set for Japanese, although it might be an A expansion set. So that's what I think about that. But yeah, just going back to what you were saying about the supply and what people were going to do, we've seen what's happened, with Pokemon 151 when it first released. I think it was like £130, £150, maybe 170 at one point. I don't think it was 170 on release, but at the point that supply was drying up, it went up to about that. So I think I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but we've seen what really hot sets can do, and a lot of people like Dark Pokemon, Rocket's Pokemon, and this is the set that everyone is talking about. People have forgotten about Heatwave Arena, which is coming out, I think, on the 14th of March. People are not even thinking about that, and not many people are talking about the black and white and the XY based sets, the Mega Brave and Mega Symphonia. So it might get a little bit crazy, especially because, as you say, we're hoping that the Pokemon company is going to be ready, but we don't know. The only thing I would say to that, though, is for anyone that's looking to get it for cheap, I do believe you will get a chance somehow. So for 151 in Clayburst, they did made to order runs, so you could just order like a box for retail for yourself, but that's ordering something like 5 months in advance or 6 months in advance, but you will get it. But if we look at the history of what's happened, you look at when Sword and Shield Japanese started getting really hype, in Paradigm Trigger, Lost Abyss, both being like, Paradigm Trigger being 12,000 yen, 70, 80 pounds, Lost Abyss being 140 pounds. 2 years later, i.e. last summer, we saw the price that those can go down to, right? Paradigm Trigger was at retail price and Lost Abyss was at like 50 to 60 pounds. So we've seen history on how the prices can drop. We've seen it with 151 as well, releasing in like, June of 2023, I think. And then the reprint last summer really, really brought the prices down for a bit. And they're picking up now because it's like 110 pounds, but it's still, for a good amount of time, it wasn't as high as what it was on release. And finally, with Clayburst, we've seen the same thing, right? Because Clayburst was like 120, 150 pound box. And so I'm just laughing because of Mark Fox's comment, but Clayburst was 120, 150 pounds. And right now, it's nowhere near that for sure. So what have you been picking up recently, Max?
Oh, man. Actually, 2 days ago, I picked up a Crimson Haze case. I really, really am starting to like that set because for so long it's sat at like 5,000 yen. And if you actually look at the set list, it's not bad. That is the Greninja SAR set. I just feel like that was grouped together with Mask of Change and with Night Wanderer, and it is just levels above those two sets. I think Wild Force and Cyber Judge are underrated too. I just think SV5 as a whole, that little bit is really good, and I don't know if people have realised it yet. I feel like people are starting to realise about Crimson Haze because in the UK, I've seen the prices start to go up on that one. So even if a reprint does come, I'm like, fine, it might drop down 1,000 yen or something, but I'm glad I've got that case secured now for the future because I feel like, given in a few years, I think that could be over £100 a box easy. So I picked up that. I picked up another Black Flame case because I saw that was trending upwards. That one, I feel like that's probably going to get another reprint if Violet and Clayburst do because it's worth more at the moment than Violet and it's newer. But I'm glad to have another one of those as well. And I've just been picking up with TikTok coupons, just some English boxes. I've got a couple Twilight Masquerade coming, and yeah, I'm just always looking for good deals. Now I'm doing this as a job. I've got more time to find good deals and do a bit more research on prices. So yeah, what about you? What have you been picking up?
Sorry, I might have missed the last bit of what you said, but going back to what you said you were picking up, Crimson Haze and Black Flame, what do you actually think of Ruler of the Black Flame as a set, considering that it looks to be, I think, the third most expensive Japanese set at the moment on eBay. Like 55 to 60 pounds from SV is pretty strong. I mean, it's a higher price than Paradise Dragona. It's a higher price than Crimson Haze. It's a similar price to Breaker. I think Breaker is actually above it, to be fair. And it's okay. So probably fourth because it's lower than 151 and Terastal Festival. So what do you think about Black Flame? And should people watching this stream be looking at it? Or yeah, go on. What do you think?
Okay, I'm not going to pretend that Black Flame's really good. I don't think it is really good. I think it's good. It's maybe like a 6 out of 10, something like that. I love the SAR Charizard. I think it looks really cool. And I'm just thinking back to like Wild Blaze from XY2. I don't think that set's incredible either, but it has a nice Charizard on the box, and this just kind of reminds me of that. I feel like it's not an incredible set XY2, and neither is this, but it's got a Charizard on the box. People just love Charizard. Nothing really comes to mind in that set other than that like Pidgeotto or Pidgeot, the really yellow card. Other than that, I don't really know too much about Black Flame, to be honest. I just see Charizard on the box. I see it going. It was going really cheap for a long time, 4,000 yen, 4,500 yen, and I just thought, I don't know. I just feel like it's a good opportunity. We'll see. It might not work out long term, but it was very cheap for a long time, and it was a Charizard set. So I just thought, let me get some of this. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I know you're not the biggest fan of it, but how many do you have? Actually, I don't know how many Black Flame you have.
Yeah, I am not a big fan of Black Flame, but I think I'm saying it also from a box opener's perspective. So if people watching don't know, I think I've opened over 100 boxes of Scarlet and Violet Japanese, but that was in my heyday, so to speak. I think I'm a little bit less prone to doing that. I mean, Terastal Festival, I only opened the what do you call it? I only opened 6 boxes. Happened to pull 2 Umbreons, which was great. And before that, Supercharged Breaker I opened 4. But back in the day, I would be opening a lot of sets. So I think I've opened like 10 Wild Force or things like that. I think that's the danger when the prices get too cheap, like 3,500 yen. In your head, it's like not a hit at all. But obviously, you don't think about what it might be worth in 2-3 years. You just think about the cost at the time. Going back to Black Flame, I opened like 7 or 8. I think I have 6, 7, 8 left. Like you said, it's a Charizard set. I think Black Flame is SV3, right? So it followed Clayburst and Snow Hazard. So that was added. So when Black Flame first came out, it was still pretty hyped because people were still in that mentality of Japanese is better than English, at least price-wise. And it's a Charizard set, so it's going to do great. As you said, the SAR by Igawa is very, very nice, but the terastalized Charizard form on the full art and the gold especially is just ugly. I'm sorry. Like I've pulled the card myself, and it's just the way they show the prisms or crystals on Charizard's body on its wing. I think it's got like 2 or 3 red colored ones, which is doesn't show the 3D effect well and just looks out of place. I think it's overpriced when I look at the prices of other sets like Crimson Haze. Yes, it's a year older than Crimson Haze, but it has had reprints recently as well, which have been selling out. So it must be the Charizard factor because, again, there's no waifu trainer cards in there. You've got Gita SAR, which is a good card, but not popular. And then you've got Poppy from the Elite Four. The Pidgeot, again, no offense to the illustrator, is not my type of art work. And then you've got the Revivroom and the Ice Cube. So really, when I look at that set, I don't think it's worth what it is. And when you flip that around to Crimson Haze, it's ugly box art, and it's got the Applin or Flaplin, I think. But the contents are just so much better. Like, it's just strong overall, Crimson Haze. It's not just the Greninja, it's the EVAR. It's the fact that when you're opening it, you can pull in Eevee, Leafeon, Snorlax, common cards. And then you've got some really cool trainer SARs in the Perrin SAR, Parrot with a Hisuian Growlithe. you've got the Ursaluna SAR, which a lot of people say is like really good because it kind of feels like a Sword and Shield alt art with the way it's presented. I think I'm missing another SAR as a good one. I can't remember though. So you've got Lana's Aid, the Ursaluna. What's the other one aside from the Greninja? I can't remember. Oh, it's the Sinistra. Yeah, that one's not that good, but again, pairs together with the AR. Monkey's just saying it's a higher total set value than Obsidian and a fraction of their price. Is that right? I'm surprised by that. But because the Obsidian Charizard SAR in English in a PSA 10 is like £400. And just going off the fact that it has more cards, I would have thought it's more, but I don't know. Might be wrong on that. Do you know, Max?
I don't know off the top of my head. I do have a pun though to do with Black Flame. So Black Flame must be part of the royal family because that set got prints. Get it? Got printed so many times. I don't know how. I lost track of how many times Black Flame got printed. Sorry, I I had to throw one little joke in there. Also, we need to talk about this, Thomas, because I secretly am a fan of Monkey Dory. I know you're not too fond of Monkey Dory. Just want to know your thoughts on the new legendaries. I hate Pecorant though. Pecorant is the worst.
Monkey Dory is the one that looks a bit like it's got. Well, I can't say it on stream, but Monkey Dory is not. Okidoki is the big one, right? And then you've got Pheasantipity. I think if I had to choose out of, so Pecorant, I don't even know what I'm looking at is the issue, and Monkey Dory, nah. I just like as a legendary Pokemon, like no, you can't look like that for me. I think the biggest issue with Pokemon in recent generations is from Zeraora onwards, it started to introduce a lot of legendary Pokemon without much background story or things like that. Now, with Sword and Shield, I played the DLC, so actually there was a bit. And then Monkey saying he loves that monkey. But with the Scarlet and Violet, to be fair, I didn't play the DLC just because of the cost and the frame rate issues that you get just from playing the normal game. I didn't want to put my money into it. But yeah, Pheasantipity, if we're talking about out of the four, is definitely the best looking one. But Monkey Dory's, nah. How about you in Scarlet and Violet? What are the Pokemon that you like the most and hate the most, either on cards or as Pokemons?
I wasn't ready for that question, to be honest, but I like Mousehold and Tandemaus, that whole family. I didn't play Scarlet and Violet, the actual video games, but I play a lot of Pokemon Showdown, and so I only really know the Pokemon from that. And I only really respect them based on how powerful they are. I don't really care for a lot of the newer designs. From Sun and Moon, I didn't like many Sun and Moon designs. I like a few Sword and Shield, and I don't really like a lot of Scarlet Violet. My exposure to them is pretty much just a static image on Pokemon Showdown. So, maybe I should have played Scarlet and Violet, the video games, but the last 2-3 generations, I don't think the video games are good enough. Like, they could do so much better, man. You know how much money that company earns. I just wish they'd put a bit more effort in or hire more staff or something. I don't really have a favorite from Scarlet Violet, to be honest. What about yourself? You a fan of it?
I think I like the ancient Paradox Pokemon more, but it depends on the Pokemon. Because if I'm thinking about Iron Crown on the SAR, I like that way better. I hate Walking Wake I hate Walking Wake the most because Suicune is my favorite of the three dogs, and the sorry, just bear with me. Just pulling up a comment. Yeah, so I like Suicune the most, and it looks the worst of the three. I think the way they destroyed it, they just ruined him, or it. Sorry. So yeah, I think there are some nice ones. I mean, I think I like Koraidon as a design, and I like quite a few of the ancient ones. Like even like Fluttermane, for example. I like the Roaring Moon I really like, especially in the SAR format. But yeah, it's I played through the game and it just wasn't. It's just not pleasant to be constantly reminded of the frame rate issues as you're playing through. Um, we've got a question here from Leon S. What do you guys think about the Master Balls from 151 and Prismatic / Terastal? Is it a good time to pick up the 151 ones? Why don't I let you take that first and then I'll come back to it?
Okay. The Master Balls. I think it was a great idea for 151. I think it makes so much sense for the set to have Master Balls, because Gen 1 you get one Master Ball. Is special, isn't it? But I don't know if it makes much sense in Prismatic and Terastal. I don't think it even needs to make sense. Like you said earlier, the evolutions didn't need to be in a previous set to be allowed to be in a Terastal Festival. And so the Master Ball doesn't need to be always in a Kanto type set. But I don't know, it just feels a little bit out of place. But I get it; it makes sense. It's going to make the set value go up. It's going to make people. It's going to give people another reason to rip. I think it's good. I don't really care for it too much. I guess if my favorite Pokemon species had a Master Ball card, then maybe I'd want it. But I think it's just a good way to keep people ripping. It's another type of master set for people to collect. It's not just reverse hollows anymore. You've got Master Ball hollows too. It just adds value to the set, to be honest. I don't have an issue with it. I hope they don't do it in every set though. I hope they keep it to special occasions, because otherwise it's just going to feel common. And Master Ball is the opposite of common. You get one of those in every game. So I want them to try and save it for special sets. Hopefully we see Master Balls in the Rocket set. I don't know if they've said that yet, or we see some type of special reverse hollow. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, so from my end, I think I take this one a bit differently for Master Balls compared to just like evolutions being in Terastal Festival, because whilst it doesn't matter for the evolution SARs to be in Terastal Festival because people will want to collect them, I think that the Master Balls in Terastal not making sense might make people not want to collect them. So I know tons and tons of people who are trying to do or doing 151 master sets in Japanese. I don't know that many people at all doing master sets of Prismatic or Terastal because of the Master Balls. And I think if you look at the way the prices moved recently, the Master Balls should be much, much harder to pull for an evolution. Like a Master Ball Vaporeon, Master Ball Flareon is way harder to pull than a Flareon SAR, than a Vaporeon SAR. But the price of the evolution SARs is still higher than the Master Ball SARs. And that's got to mean something to me. Like the Flareon, I know that one because I've been buying it recently, is about 48 to 50 pounds, but the Master Ball is not even going to be close to 35 pounds. And don't get me wrong, the card itself is sick and the texturing is sick, so I'll give it that. But I think when you've got a high class set with, like, I don't know, 190 common card or 190 main set cards, that means you're going to get you're going to get more Master Balls than 151, and you don't have the same gotta catch them all feeling with the Master Balls in Terastal Festival than 151. So in my mind, even though they look better than the 151 ones, the 151 Master Balls are still way more collectible. I wouldn't personally be trying to pick up the Master Balls to complete a master set myself. So yeah, that's a really good question. I do have a question for you, Max. What do you think about, with how much modern product is printed, especially as we've seen with Japanese, how confident are you about singles prices going up? So I'm not talking about sealed now, but with the amount of boxes that get ripped on rip and ships or people just buying for it themselves, the chase cards in Japanese from Scarlet and Violet, how high do you see them going if there's that many that's being printed? Do you feel like that's going to affect it, or what do you think?
I want to say that it will affect it. I feel like logically it should. If they print too much of something, obviously there's going to be way more singles that exist, and that should hold the price down. But then again, like, bro, what is the felt hat population now? 30,000, and that card is very expensive still. I feel like if the demand is there, it just doesn't. It seems to not matter how much product is there. Like, I don't know. It's logically, obviously, the more they print, the more exists, and the price can't hold up. But we have to wait and see. I guess if the Pokemon is popular enough, it just always finds a way. If it's an Umbreon, it will find a way of being expensive. Pikachu, Eevee, Charizard, usual ones. Gengar. It just even common like you say, bulk cards, common cards, stuff like that. You grade it, you can make a lot of money just with these really common cards that are probably printed in the hundreds of thousands or millions. So just depends on how popular things are. I think that is the main thing that affects the price, the popularity. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I guess the lesser popular SARs, they might struggle a bit in the future if they keep reprinting these sets. So say Violet, if they keep reprinting Violet, is it Iron Treads? That SAR might really struggle in the future because there's just going to be a lot of it and not a lot of demand for it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because and this is going to take me on to the next topic, I think, after we answer the next commenter's question. But I think it's easy to talk about demand and popularity and how those are going to keep these cards going up. Because as long as people are talking about a card, people are going to want a card. If the Moonbreon is still showing up on everyone's feeds, it's going to make a big difference. And I think Sword and Shield print quantity, Sword and Shield onwards print quantity is incomparable to Sun and Moon and before, right? So right now, it's great that people are constantly talking about the Moonbreon and things like that. But I just think that, and I buy these cards myself, right? But for my collection, like, I don't intend on selling them. But I think as you get more and more generations, these current generations creep further and further back, and the top cards from the era will always have that historical value, like the Moonbreon. I think someone did a poll recently that it was more popular than the base set Charizard in terms of the poll responses to it. I think it will still stay popular, but the less modern a set becomes, I think the less people talk about it, because I think the YouTube Pokemon investing space is heavily centered around modern Pokemon cards, because that's what people want to hear about. That's the lowest entry point, and it's also the thing that moves up the most. I think what's different between these modern cards and perhaps some less cards that were printed less is the volatility, right? Because as good as it is to talk about the Moonbreon and Giratina, like the Giratina being 1,300 pounds or things like that, people are forgetting that last year, I don't know what it was. It was like it went down to like 500, 600 pounds, right? But people forget that once the card is hitting a new high like that. So I think as the sets get less and less modern, maybe there's less and less attention on it, and maybe that might impact the demand for those cards, but not the top cards. But I'm just thinking all the cards that come after it. So yeah, we'll see. So we've got two questions. So I'm going to take the first one from Thomas. So I like Japanese booster box and Japanese cards, but noticed that selling a Japanese card on card market is much slower than an English card. Do I have the same feeling? Alternative. So I think I speak for both of us in that we don't sell on card market, especially with the new EU regulations that are coming in, or that have come in, that require any Brit when selling abroad to have like a designated point of contact. I think it's complicated on card market. On eBay, I think you can get away with it with GSP. I don't think you can on card market, but I think we can still answer the question in general, in terms of our experiences selling Japanese and English. Well, what I've noticed is that a lot of the vendors in the UK don't take in Japanese stock at all. Like, they just prefer to not have it. They only buy English stuff. And I think that is because English still remains the more liquid option and more popular. I think when Japanese had its little boom in 2021 to late 2023, it was very easy to sell. In the current market, I think with Japanese going up, it's easy to sell. However, yeah, that's my feeling on it. I mean, I think it's much easier to sell an English alt art than a Japanese alt art. at the same time, I do think that since 2021, people have started to appreciate Japanese cards a bit more, because Shiny Star V onwards is really when people started to be exposed to Japanese cards, right? So I do think it's harder to sell Japanese cards than English cards, especially in PSA 10s, because Japanese PSA 10s are easier to get than English PSA 10s. I'm not sure if I have a way around it, because ultimately it is something that I enjoy collecting. So it is a little bit more niche, but yeah, what do you think?
I would say I agree at the moment. I think Japanese is just overshadowed by English a bit at the moment. If you would have asked this in middle of 2023, the answer would be very different. I feel like at that point, Japanese was easier to sell than English, at least from what I could see. It's just a matter of when this question's being asked. I think, like, if Japanese has a really good year this year or next year, you know, it might be the opposite way around again. I feel like Japanese has its times when it's, you know, easier to sell. Right now, I'd say right now is easier to sell than a few months ago for Japanese, for sure. But yeah, English is king at the moment. I can't even argue that. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially at shows, I think most of the people that come up to the tables are asking about English cards. I mean, I think we've both experienced that selling at London Card Show. Um, right, like when people walk up to your table and just
Mm.
like snigger or like say like F, like you've only got Japanese cards. Um, but I do think that also means that it's a good opportunity to build your own niche if you do want to sell Japanese cards at these kind of shows, because other people just don't find them attractive other than, you know, the top cards like the poncho cards and things like that. So question from Fox McLeod, which I'm showing on the screen. Do you see more opportunity in vintage Japanese slabs or modern slabs and booster boxes? So I think that it depends on what vintage you're talking about, because I don't really dabble in vintage Japanese that much. Like the Shinings, I have some gold stars, but the Shining Japanese cards are very, very expensive. I think they're more expensive than the English ones, aren't they? Just because of the population difference. But if we're talking about like Japanese hollows, then I still, just based on what we were talking about earlier today, your is it Neo 2 or Neo 3?
Reference.
Houndor, like a lot of Neo PSA 10 hollows are just dirt cheap at the moment. So I guess if you're looking for an opportunity, that could present itself as an opportunity, because they're just beautiful cards, especially that Houndor from Neo. It's got a lot of hollow on it. It did go down a lot in the last 2 years, and I'll go to you, Max, to see if you think it's picked up a bit. But the from the modern side, I do think, well, I'm more comfortable with the modern side because I've got way more modern, and I think that although it's going to go up slower than English, I think there's plenty of opportunity in modern, not necessarily SV, but I think even on the English side, people are just looking at SV and forgetting about Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon. And I still think that some of the Sun and Moon booster boxes are just cheaper than what they should be when you look at the Sword and Shield and SV stuff. If you're looking at Sun and Moon, you know, the tag team sets, Tag Bolt is very expensive, but Alter Genesis, which is the Japanese Cosmic Eclipse, is like 150, 175 pounds. That set has got 2 tag team waifu SR cards, I think. It's Misty, Lorelei, Cynthia, and Caitlyn, plus the ADP PSA 10. So that's why I picked up a little bit of Sun and Moon last year, but there is also another pitfall with buying Japanese, which I don't know if we should cover in this one, but about, you know, the resealing that's going on with Japanese, which is going to pick up more. But yeah, what about you, Max?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that actually. Just seeing how much Team Up is worth, the box. I just don't understand how Tag Bolt can be so far behind, because Tag Bolt is objectively a better set. We have Pika Rom in there. You know, you can what else? All of the promos that we had that went along with Team Up on the English side were actual cards in the set on the Japanese side. So I feel like Team Up is definitely a worse version of Tag Bolt, and the price difference between Tag Bolt and Team Up is ridiculous. I get that Team Up wasn't printed enough, but I mean, Tag Bolt being that far behind makes no sense to me. It might seem expensive, but considering what's in there, like I still feel like that's such a good opportunity. That box, I don't know the current price. It always seems to change every time I look at it, but I just feel like Tag Bolt is superior in every way to Team Up, and it is so far behind in price. And it doesn't make sense to me. And like you said, Alter Genesis, there's plenty of these tag team sets in Japanese that are undervalued. When I see them auction on eBay, for instance, you know, they're still ending at like 100 to 130, a lot of these sets. Not necessarily like Dream League and Tag Bolt, but some of the other ones, GG End, Night Unison, Full Metal Wall, these are still really good sets. And I just can't believe how cheap they are. But like you say, when these modern things get spoken about less and less, there's less attention. People aren't, you know, rushing to buy these things, and I think they fall into obscurity a bit. We see that with the alternate arts from XY Japanese. They are cheaper than a lot of the really modern ones that have a much higher pop, just because people aren't talking about them. But you know, they're harder to pull. There was less produced, and logically they should cost more. It's just one of those things. I feel like the tag team sets in Japanese, those boxes are a good buy personally. Some of them are pretty expensive already, but you know, they have potential. That's what I've got to say about that. But yeah, I would say vintage Japanese slabs. I don't know. I'm not personally picking them up anymore. I think that certain like mid-era ones are way undervalued. Like Japanese Level X cards, I am so disgusted at their current prices. You know, I know you're not a massive fan of them, but I just think a pack is costing you like $150, $200 to pull the best card in the set and grade it PSA 10, and you're telling me that's like $80. Doesn't make sense. Does not make sense. So I guess I see opportunity there, but you know, most people aren't seeing that opportunity. They're not bothering with it. But yeah, maybe if you're trying to do it for money, yeah, stick to maybe like more modern stuff, and I would say stick to sealed personally. I feel like slabs are a bit too volatile, but that's just me. I don't have the energy to constantly check if they're up or down. I just like to buy boxes and put them away and just see what happens.
Yeah. Just before I get into it, we've got Ernie in the chat who's, I think, donated a super chat of $10. So thanks so much, bro. You're an absolute legend. Hopefully the rip and chips are going well. I haven't seen you put up some uploads recently, so we'll look out for that. But thanks a lot for that. But yeah, I think you made a really good point, Max, about Tag Bolt. It's just so much better than Team Up as a set, because Team Up mixes up Dark Order and Tag Bolt and takes away the biggest mistake that Sun and Moon did. But I guess it shows it doesn't, well, we don't know if it matters or not, because with those cards, with the tin promo alt arts, the Pika Rom, the Venusaur Celebi, the Eevee Snorlax, although Eevee Snorlax was not in Tag Bolt, it was a promo. If you put those into Team Up, if you put the Reshizard in Unbroken Bonds, if you put the Mew 3, like the Mewtwo, into Unified Minds, like who knows what prices those boxes would be, right? But yeah, Tag Bolt is just so much better as a set. Tag Bolt kind of feels like a 151 type set because it's like a lot of Gen 1 hollows. I've opened it myself. And then you've got the waifu cards, you know, you've got the Erica, you've got the Sabrina, and then you've got the Latios, the Pikarom, the Magikarp Wellord, the Venusaur Celebi, all in there. It's just such a goated set. Moving on to the next question, what are your top 5 picks for Japanese booster boxes, except for 151 Terastal Festival and Battle Partners? I think we got to narrow the question a little bit into what maybe we think are good value or underpriced sets, because that's what we like to talk about. Because if I'm talking about, like, you know, the top 5 sets, I'm always going to include Eevee Heroes and Blue Sky Stream into it. However, I think that those sets from Sword and Shield, which form Evolving Skies, have enough eyes on them, and the price sort of reflects that. So I'm going to go with what I can first. And Max, why don't you just fill in the others? Because I don't know if we can each name 5. I think we both think that Crimson Haze is very underrated as a set. We think that, or I think that the box art is kind of deceiving in terms of what you can actually get in the set. I mean, it's got a 250-pound card in a PSA 10, being the Greninja, but even the Eevee is hitting 70 to 80 pounds. Obviously, all of that comes with the caveat that we might see it being printed for another window of a year and a half. But if you have a long-term view, I think it's very, very underrated as a set. If I go back a little bit, one of the sets that we like to talk about from Sword and Shield is Matchless Fighters. Excuse me. And the reasons for that, I think, are twofold. One is because of the print quantity, and that's not based on fact, but based on how we saw the set come out at the time. So this was during the COVID times. When Matchless Fighters came out, it was a special expansion set. I think it's S6A, right after Jet Black, Spirit, and Silverlands. But that set contains, I think, 5 alt arts. It's got the Galarian Slowking, the 3 birds, and then the Blaziken VMAX. And then even on the waifu side, it's got that Clara. And they did a special product for it, being the Clara and Avery set. So I think Matchless Fighter, again, is an underrated set. Not necessarily a pickup, but one that I think gets too much hate is Scarlet Base. I think Scarlet Base is a better set than Violet Base. I'm just going to put it out there. So a lot of people like the Miriam SAR in Violet, but aside from that and the Miraidon SAR, I don't think it's got that much going for it. Whereas Scarlet, I personally like Penny as a trainer, which I know is not necessarily a investment qualification. You know, it's just from the story. I like her as a character. So you've got the Penny SAR, but you've also got the storyboard Gardevoir, and you've got the Koraidon SAR. So I think Scarlet is hated on too much, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's like a fantastic pickup. If the price goes back down to like, 4,400 yen, then maybe it is. I think I'm going to take away all of the ones that you like, but I'll let you talk. Okay, I know which 2. I'm thinking of 2 from Scarlet and Violet that you really like. So I'm going to let you speak about those.
Yeah. I don't. For me personally, these new. Well, let's just say first of all, it's Cyber Judge and Wild Force. I know the new forms bother people a lot. I know you don't really like them too much, but for me, I see them as like you have a Galarian whatever, or you have a Alolan Raichu. I just see them as like this new generation's form of that pre-existing Pokemon. I try not to let it bother me too much, and I still do see these sets as a Unova set and as a Johto set. I see these as the legendary beasts and the Unova trio, just with a new lick of paint on them. And I think that they're really strong sets. Personally, I really like Rage and Surf. I feel like Rage and Surf is the best part of Paradox Rift. Crimson Haze, like we've been talking about a lot recently. I think I personally just didn't look at it really when it came out, and I just grouped it with Mask of Change and Night Wanderer. That set's fantastic. Crimson Haze. I really like Paradise Dragona. I feel like it's a very strong set. If that came out in Sword and Shield during the hype, we all would have been going crazy for it, and it would be really expensive. Supercharged Breaker, I mean, it's very good. Shiny Treasure EX, I didn't think was incredible when it first came out. I'm starting to like it a bit more now. I've come around to like Bubble Mew. I've seen how well that's done in English, and I think that set dropped so low for a long time. Shiny Treasure EX, it's like double what it was a few months ago. Personally, I don't think this is a good investment at all, but I really like Snow Hazard as well. I think the Baxcalibur line is so cool, the Camille ones. Triplet Beat's pretty damn strong. I've started to realize that recently. Magikarp is doing really well in English. I guess I'm assuming this question was just Scarlet Violet mainly. But yeah, Sword and Shield, there's a ton of Sword and Shield sets I think are great. I agree with you. Matchless Fighters is really good. If you look at the most expensive cards in Chill and Rain, pretty much all of them are from Matchless Fighters. None of them are really from Jet Black Geist and Silver White Lance. That should tell you how good Matchless Fighters is. It's S5A. Sorry to be anal about it. You know me with my set codes. Know them all. But yeah, I think Matchless Fighters is a very good pick. What else? Sorry, I'm just looking at my list. Jet Black Geist is not a bad set. I love Shadow Rider Calyrex. What else is there? I like Dark Phantasma. I know that's not a very popular one. I like it for the ARs. It has a good selection there. Pikachu, Snorlax, Gengar. I love Paradigm Trigger just for how cheap it's been recently. It just seems like such a good pickup to me because that set is as good as SM8 Super Burst Impact in my opinion. And if you look at how well that's doing now, I feel like Paradigm Trigger could get there in a few years. It's a good pickup. Lost Abyss was really good to pick up. I feel like now it's creeping back to where it was before the reprint. I mean, it's harder to buy now, but yeah, again, I think that's a really good set. Top 5 picks for Japanese sealed. I wasn't sure if you meant like top 5 picks for sets ever Japanese, because like all of my top 5 Japanese sets would be old ones. I love like Lost Link, Dragon Blast, sets like that, but we'll save that for another video.
Yeah, I think they were asking about top 5 from Scarlet and Violet, Sword and Shield. So I think we've probably picked out more than 5 from there. But yeah, let's move on to the next questions because I think we've got a few. Thanks a lot, Pokey South, for dropping in. Question. Okay, so this is more just focused on just what we do in general, how to determine which product is for investment or collection, mainly PSA slabs. So if the question is about what PSA slabs do we buy for investment or collection, I think I don't think I ever have approached PSA slabs, or I rarely do, with this is a good investment. I think it's easier to make picks on sealed product than PSA slabs, because if you just think about the number of choices you have for sets versus singles within sets, for sets, Sword and Shield, you've got 12 sets plus the special sets, I think. But if you think about the singles, there are just so many in them, and that doesn't mean that you can't find the right picks, but I think singles have shown themselves to be a lot more volatile, which means that they go up a lot faster, but they come down a lot faster as well, whereas sealed goes up way slower than singles, but it also takes more of a crash for the sealed products to come down. And I think that makes sense, because if the sealed doesn't go up that much, then it also can't really come down that much. Although we have seen examples with Scarlet and Violet sets where, 151 and Clayburst crashed because they were just too much. So my PSA slab collection really is things that I like for myself. And if we're talking about grading, it's a different story, because I do grade cards that I think, okay, it's worth £10 raw and it costs £15 to grade. And if I grade it, I'm going to get more value out of a 10 than just the 15 I'm spending on it. So if we're talking about that, then yeah, that answers the question in terms of how I determine it. Like, I look at the card, I look at the gem rate, like what percentage of cards submitted get a PSA 10, and then I just compare whether it's worth it or not based on the margin I can make from grading the card and the time it takes to grade the card. Now, it's getting a bit more difficult now with PSA getting a bit more backed up, raising their prices. It feels like it's going to take longer to get your cards back. So if you are thinking of submitting cards for grading, I think you've also got to take into account the possibility that the price comes back down by the time you get the card back. And Max, you actually have an example for that, even though you managed to recover it with one of your recent sales, which I'll let you talk about. But for PSA slabs, if I look at my collection, like, Gold Stars or, WotC first edition cards, it's all cards that I liked myself. And I don't ever see myself being in a position where I have to sell that. So I think that kind of guides what's an investment and what's a collection to me. What's an investment is something that I have a few of that I'm willing to let go one or two of, and that's always going to be a sealed box. But maybe I need to rethink my strategy, right? Because I was talking about the Lugia alt art from Paradigm Trigger with you, and I was saying, like, I want more of those just because I love that card. So there's nothing stopping people from picking up multiples of singles to gamble on them. Sealed just seems like the easier option for me. But yeah, how do you approach this question, Max?
You just used a great word there, gamble. I feel like it's a lot more, for me personally, it feels a lot more like a gamble to invest in slabs and even invest in raw cards. Because like you say, you could send one off, by the time you get it back, it's dropped in price. That happened for me with Lily cards. So like every Lily card, not just the special ones, but every Lily card became expensive at one point. And so I had loads of like trainers. I sent all those off. Even just like Sightseer normal trainer holo from Sun and Moon, sent that off. By the time I got them all back, they weren't worth the grading cost. Eventually, yeah, in this market that's picked up a bit, I've been able to sell them. But you know, when I first got them back, they were just, I was like, what have I done? You know, you can't like see a trend happen and then do something that takes 3 months and expect when you get those back that you're still going to be able to capitalize on this trend, because it's probably past. Yeah, I don't invest in slabs really. I did in 2020 and 2021. I did buy some slabs with the intent of investing, because at that point they were just going up and up and up and up. And in my head I was like, well, you know, it is rare, it's special, it should continue to do this. And a lot of them didn't. You know, like I said earlier, Japanese level X. Yeah, that didn't work out too well. But like that stuff, I try and just buy graded cards because I want them, like as a collection piece, not to invest. If I'm going to put some money to an investment, it would be sealed, definitely. It's slower, it's boring, but it feels more safe to me personally. Yeah, I think you probably feel the same way about it. I think you probably feel.
Yeah, for singles, I definitely approach it from buying what I want. But what I want happens to be all the chase cards, all the set chase cards from every era. So, you know, from SV, I'm trying to do all of the SAR cards. I'm picking that up mainly. Well, I am definitely picking that up for my personal collection goals only, without the expectation that it goes up. But as we've seen recently, even with Japanese SARs, the Blastoise from 151, when it first came out, went all the way down to like 20, 25 pounds raw. Now it's like double to like 50, and a 10 is like a respectable 85 to 100 pounds. And I did talk about wanting to pick up loads of them, but for whatever reason, it feels easier for me to pick up sealed than singles, because you don't know what's going to happen with singles, or I think you've got less certainty on what's going to happen with singles, because the data set that you have to analyze is so much bigger, and it really just does depend on the card itself. We've got a question here, which is perfect for you, I think, but I'm going to answer it first. What do you think about buying booster boxes in exotic languages? So let's first talk about what we classify as exotic languages, because I think the answer is, so obviously we're not talking Japanese, because Japanese is original language. But if I'm talking about simplified Chinese, I think my answer is going to be very different to if I'm talking about Thai, Indonesian, Korean. I'm not necessarily saying that people have to invest in simplified Chinese, because I'm not doing it myself, but they are doing a lot of things differently to the other languages in simplified Chinese. They're mixing up the sets together to try and catch up, because Pokemon only started this mainland Chinese presence about a year and a half ago, I want to say, with those 3 different colored sets. So some of the sets are absolutely stacked. If you think about 9 colors gathering, it's a mix of Eevee Heroes, Blue Sky Stream, and Fusion Arts, I think. Excuse me. And, you know, with the Mew SAR promo, you can see that they're doing different things. They're having exclusive, at least for now, cards, where they're printing 1510 different types of cards. So, you know, I think if you're thinking about simplified Chinese, it's probably different to the other languages. And I'll let you get on to the other languages, but my comment on the other languages is that whilst simplified Chinese might perform independently, even though it hasn't really shown to be, because when Japanese has gone down, simplified Chinese has gone down. I think all of the other languages piggyback off of Japanese, or how the market is doing. So I don't see a world where a Thai box is going to cost more than Japanese, but that doesn't mean that you can't make a decent gain on your tag team, tag bolt, Indonesian Thai boxes. Just before I pass over to you, just want to say thanks to Thomas Pasek for the super chat as well, and we will answer your question after Max answers this one.
Yeah, so I hope that boxes in exotic languages go up a bit. I have 100 Indonesian booster boxes, which I was picking up in 2021. My logic was Shining Legends Japanese box at the same time was like about £600, and you could buy an Indonesian one for like £25. They had the exact same print quality. To my knowledge, they had like the same kind of pull rates, and I even preferred the box for the Indonesian one, like the box art. So it just made so much sense. I was like, I can get like tens of these Indonesian boxes or one Japanese box, and so that inspired me. I bought loads of Shining Legends, loads of the tag team sets, and one of my favorite things about Indonesian, and this goes for some of the other languages too, is that because they were playing catch up, they had to cram loads of sets into one, and so you had these gigantic sets that had so many chase cards. There's a blue Indonesian tag bolt box, which you have the Latias, Latios. You have so many strong GX cards in there that you can pull, and to buy this box was so cheap, and the print quality was amazing. I was like, this just makes so much sense to be buying loads of these. And at the same time, the Japanese boxes were so expensive, so I stocked up, and I'm yet to see anything happen really with them. I haven't seen any of them do anything crazy in value. And some, like you say, if the Japanese and English ones, I feel like they're always going to stay in the lead in terms of price. And if they're not performing well at that time, neither are the other languages. That's always typically going to be the case. I have a Thai Blue Sky Stream box, by the way, and I agree with you. They're not that common, and I hope they do all right. We'll have to just wait and see. But yeah, I think simplified Chinese is probably going to be its own thing. I think the population of China is pretty big, and I think Pokemon is pretty big over there. I don't know I feel like the population of Thailand and Indonesia is probably smaller than China. I don't know off the top of my head. And so there's going to be a smaller market for those languages of cards. People often would go to buy these other languages because English or Japanese was so expensive. And now with Japanese being at retail or under retail for a lot of sets, is there that reason anymore to go and buy a Korean, which is lower print, like the print quality is not as good. The incentive's kind of gone for now. If these sets get really expensive again, then you might want to look at these other languages. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't have bought 100 Indonesian boxes. Maybe I would have bought like 30, 40. It's a bit of a risky buy, but I'm not looking to sell them anytime soon. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm hoping they do okay. It'd be good for box breaks in the future because breaking a box of Tag Bolt in 5 years is probably going to cost over $1,000. Whereas breaking one of these Indonesian boxes will cost a fraction of that price, and everyone's happy. We get some good cards out of it. It's cheaper. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yep, and just before I get to the next one, guys, this is crazy. I was not expecting people to super chat on my first live stream, so thanks a lot, Ernie, Thomas, and Fox for the super chats. Just before I get to the next one, sorry, I had some sound issues there. Again, I think this is the perfect question for Bonnie-tastic in terms of which Pokemon we can expect in the Glory of Team Rocket set. I don't really have. You've probably thought about this, definitely thought about this way more than me. I'm just trying to think if I can come up with an answer based on history in terms of like the number of times Pokemon promotes a chase Pokemon in an era. We've seen with Charizard, they've done 2 SARs, 3 SARs in the Scarlet and Violet era already, but Charizard is kind of on its own. What we haven't seen yet is a Gengar SAR. So if they put that in, it's going to be massive. You've got the Morty's Conviction SAR in Wild Force, which has a Gengar on its artwork. You've got a Gengar SR in Wild Force as well, but we haven't seen a Gengar SAR, and it feels like a perfect Pokemon for that. And then I guess you'd have to think about the Pokemon that Giovanni has as well. I should have said there's definitely going to be a Mewtwo SAR. I'm pretty sure I read off PokeBeach actually that it's going to feature a Rocket's Mewtwo or something like that when they were confirming that it's Rocket's Pokemon that are coming back. So obviously a Mewtwo SAR. And I just learned today that apparently that's Mitsuhiro Arita's favorite Pokemon. So I don't know if he's going to have any say in that. But what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Mewtwo will definitely be there. I would like to see, because he used to be my old mascot, I'd love to see Wobbuffet, Rocket's Wobbuffet EX. And I remember reading, I don't know if this was on PokeBeach, I remember reading that they're not doing Dark Pokemon, they're going to be doing Rocket's Pokemon. But I think they might take Dark Pokemon from previous Rocket sets and repurpose them as Rockets. So for instance, Dark Gengar from Neo Destiny, I think. They might use that, Rocket's Gengar EX SAR. That will be so expensive. I already know that. I want to say Rocket's Charizard EX because we've had Dark Charizard, but I don't know. I feel like they'll probably save the Charizard for the Mega sets. Have like Mega Charizard X EX, Mega Charizard Y EX. That's a mouthful. There's loads of like dark and evil Pokemon I'd love to see. Like Koffagrigus is one of my favorite Pokemon. I think a Rocket's Koffagrigus EX would be really cool. Don't think it's realistically going to happen. But they have over 1,000 Pokemon to work with now. I'm sure they'll pick some great ones. I'd love to see a Rocket's Alakazam EX. I think that'd be really evil, be really cool. Again, that's another Pokemon that was a dark Pokemon, so could happen. But I think Rocket's Gengar EX is probably the most likely because we, like Thomas said, we had the SR in Wild Force and the Morty's Conviction. So they're like teasing us with this Gengar, and this would be a great opportunity to drop that Gengar SAR. I think that could be coming in the set. But again, sorry, like I said before, with the Mega Charizard, Mega Gengar exists, so they might be saving the Mega Gengar SAR for the Mega sets at the end of the generation. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think whatever comes out, it's just going to be hype. I actually think down to a certain level of bad, people are going to be just crazy hyped. It's just the reaction after it comes out, maybe it slows down. So what I mean by that is people are amping themselves up and are going to be super hyped no matter what, as long as it's not absolutely terrible. But if it's like mid, or if it's like just okay afterwards, we might see the price come down a bit. But yeah, I don't think I've got that much more to add for it. I'm excited for it. I think linking into the next super chat from Fox. What's your favorite single card or product you own? And have you been playing TCG Pocket? I think we'll go for about 10 more minutes, unless some other questions come in. But favorite cards. I don't think I've got a favorite, but in my top 2 or 3, I've got it in front of me, which is why it disappeared, is this. I don't know if the camera's going to show it properly, but this Torchic Gold Star PSA 9. Hollow's not showing properly, but Max is probably off to get his own card. Just got a Phantom display for it. I've had this since about 2020, just before Gold Star started going really mad. But even then, paying what I paid for this back then was a lot. So this Torchic, I think, is just absolutely beautiful. It's got so much hollow foil on it. And it's one of the first 3 Gold Stars that came out from Team Rocket Returns, right? So a lot of people are hoping that they bring back Gold Stars in some way, but I don't know how they would do them, because one of the key qualities of these Gold Stars is that they're coming out of the frame, but obviously now the chase cards are all full art cards. So I don't know if they will do anything to it, but yeah, this is definitely one of my top 2, top 3 cards in my collection. Bought it for about £1,000 in a 9 in 2020, when I could have had one for 300 a month or 2 before. But this card is like 3K at the moment, and it wasn't always 3K. You know, it was 2.2-ish for the last year or 2. But yeah, absolutely beautiful card. And what I like about it is it's showcasing a Pokemon that isn't like the super hype Charizard type. It's cool to see like cute Pokemon or starter Pokemon get given the spotlight. So for all of those reasons, this is definitely one of my favorite cards. And obviously it's got, yeah, Max has got his unlimited, I think, Torchic Japanese with him. But yeah, Torchic is my favorite one. Do I play TCG Pocket? No, I don't, although the cards look amazing. The reason why I don't is because in my head, I just don't want to sink more time into my phone. So it's not to say that the app isn't great or the, game isn't great. Like, some of the immersive looking cards are amazing, but I just don't want to sink my time into something extra. So yeah, what about you, Bonnie?
Well, as far as sealed goes, my favorite thing I own is a unlimited Dragon Blast booster box, because I've searched ever since I bought it in 2019 or 2020. I've been searching for the counterpart, the unlimited Dragon Blade. Not found anything. I've never seen an unlimited Dragon Blade box, and I've never seen another unlimited Dragon Blast box. I only see unlimited packs coming from I think that it's called an N blister thing. I don't even know the real terminology for it, but they're just extinct. There's none, and it's become my favorite product I own because I just cannot. It's irreplaceable. I can't find another one. I've looked for years, and so that's become my favorite thing. As far as slabs go, I have a few here that are like favorites. Got that Torchic, just love that card. this Giratina level X. I've got Gengar EX, very sentimental. Mew EX, I think this is one of the best Mew cards for me. Rocket's Mewtwo EX, again, just I love it. We've got Lugia EX, very, very special card. And then this one. Ignore the grade on this one. I just love the artwork. I think Latias Gold Star is just incredible. I actually prefer it to Rayquaza, I think. I've got to be careful, saying that, because I know people love Rayquaza Gold Star. But yeah, and I have been playing Pocket. I really like Pocket. DM me on Instagram if you have it. I'll send you my code. Be friends. I open packs every day. I love it. I had 600 hourglasses recently, and yeah, I had to use some of them up for the new set. But really enjoying Pocket, and it is actually working. People that don't play with Pokemon cards or don't collect them are beginning to want to collect them. My girlfriend, for example, she got Pocket. She loved opening packs. She wanted to open real packs. She's done it, and now she's buying booster boxes off me to rip. So it's working. They created that app so that it would bring more people into ripping real cards, and I'm seeing it happen. And sorry, I'm just going to skip ahead a few comments. Why is Max's channel called Bonnie-tastic? I was called Pokemax, and then Instagram literally just assassinated my account. I didn't even get to appeal it because it had Pokey in the name. So I took my dog's name, Bonnie, and I don't know, tastic, fantastic, Bonnie-tastic. There you go.
Okay, I think we might end on the final question that I've got. Just before I do that, thanks everyone for joining. And I might turn my camera off when my delivery comes and whilst Max answers the question, but I'll go first. So I might have to excuse myself in a second whilst Max answers, but my opinion is that the announcements on the reprints don't change anything. So Pokemon Japan announced recently, and apologies, I'm tracking my delivery. Pokemon Japan announced reprints on Battle Partners and Terastal Festival from mid-February to April. That was always going to happen, right? That was always going to happen. The announcement doesn't change anything except for maybe increasing people's confidence of being able to get the product. And that in itself, yes, can affect the price. But since the Black Flame reprint, I think towards the start or middle of next year, Pokemon announced that this is how they would be releasing sets. They'd be doing them in waves. And this is why on release of Japanese sets, you get some stock and then you see suppliers and shops restocking them in a week or two. They get more, right? So the fact that this is happening to Terastal Festival, I don't think it's like a new decision that they've taken to do the reprints. I think they were going to do them anyways, especially because I believe the lead time that you need to do these reprints is a few months, right? So if Terastal Festival came out last month and Battle Partners this month, there's no way they could have just randomly decided to bring out reprints in January and said that they could start coming out from mid-Feb. But that bit is just conjecture. How low do I think the boxes can go for by summer? I think Terastal Festival it's realistic to see it at 50, 60 pounds, maybe 45, 40 pounds if the market really turns. High class sets, I always treat with a bit of caution because they get reprinted more. We saw V-Star Universe even have some restocks on the Pokemon Center towards the end of last year, and I managed to pick some up. So that's what I think about the Terastal Festival reprints. It doesn't really worry me because I only have like 5-6 boxes. It's not something I'm going in hard on. But yeah, why don't you answer that as well, Max?
Yeah, I feel very similar to what Thomas said, to be honest. I've seen these high class sets come out, be really hype, go to 2-3 times retail, and then just get bombarded with prints. I'm sure this set will be the same. I'm sure they're going to print this set quite heavily. I'm not too worried about like missing out on it. It's brand new. I feel like it's probably going to be in print for the next 18 months. Waves and waves of it coming. So I wouldn't panic too much and pay whatever it there. I don't even know what it's worth right now. I wouldn't pay today's price for it. I think it's probably 2 to 3 times retail, I imagine. But with Shiny Star V, I remember that on pre-order being like £30 or less. Then it was 100, then it was 80, then it was right now it's like less than it was 3-4 years ago. I don't think that's going to be the case with this set. This set is way better. V-Star University, again, that's way better. I think they could just follow a similar path of like, waves coming out, it drops, it goes up a bit, it drops. I don't think any of the high class sets after Tag Team All Stars SM12A have been, too expensive, and I think this will join them. This one might be in the lead, up there with V-Star Universe, but I don't know. I'm not really going to panic about it. I feel like they're going to keep printing it and keep printing it. They know there's demand for it. I'm just hoping that they can do the same for the other popular sets, Battle Partners and the Rocket set, etc. I'm hoping they plan to print a lot of it, because these are popular sets. They're gonna do well long term. I definitely would pick some up, but yeah, don't panic. Don't think that this is your last chance, because the set's brand new.
Okay, we've got one more question that I'm going to answer, and then I think we'll close the stream. Okay, sorry, that's not a question from Trev.
We've got one more question.
Sorry, there might be some sound issues because I've been tweaking the volume on and off on the YouTube video. But sorry, Mystery, I think you asked earlier, and I don't know if we missed the question. So Max and I recently have both become more business focused in terms of buying and selling things. What should I be purchasing and selling to build my inventory? I recently got the gold Arceus and 2 Suicunes, which are going to grade from Crown Zenith. Is that smart? I think it's very difficult for me to answer, or us to answer for you, because I'm still, well, to be fair, I am buying a lot of things now that I would never have bought as a collector. So I recently bought a Lugia alt art in English for £180, and I flipped it for like 230, 240. So I am buying things that I would never usually buy. But yeah, I don't know how to answer that, because it depends on your own preferences and what you think is going to get you the best. I guess from my end, I can tell you what I'm not doing, and what I'm not doing is trying to get distro access on the English side or a supplier on the Japanese side, because on the Japanese side, I think I've got enough knowledge at the moment to source boxes at a reasonable price. And on the English side, I don't think distribution is worth it, unless it depends on your circumstances, right? But I don't have time to ship out multiple booster boxes at a low margin and build sales based on volume. So ultimately, it does depend on what you want to do. I mean, I've been picking up quite a few Japanese singles, and I've seen them go up since then. So that kind of worked. But yeah, it depends on you. What do you think, Max?
Yeah, I don't want to tell you to do it and then they come back as PSA 8s and the market's changed by then. Like there's so many variables to think about. Definitely, if you've not graded before, I don't want to assume maybe you grade lots, but yeah, definitely be very harsh when you're looking at your card, because the PSA standards have changed recently to make it even harder for you to get a 10. So first of all, make sure the card are sufficient to, to get a PSA 10, and look at the history of the price of that card, and try and make your mind up whether you think it's going to sustain that price or if you think it's going to go up or down. Worst comes to worst, you can probably just sell it to another collector for whatever you paid, and yeah, if you feel like they're not worthy of 10s. But yeah, I mean, my thing, I like to pick out really popular species of Pokemon, but cheap cards, so that it's easy to buy loads and then pick out the very best and send them in. So like for me, Japanese common Gengars or common Eevees and stuff like that. Ones your cost is so low. If it's I like doing those little flips. I don't really get involved with grading English. I feel like it's a lot harder to do because the print quality is not quite as good. But yeah, I mean, it could be smart if they're PSA 10 worthy and the market stays as it is. That would be a smart move. Yeah, I mean, it could be smart.
Yeah, especially with, I mean, it depends on what you bought them for, because the Giratina, from what I've seen, is like £480, $560 now in the States. So yeah, it depends on how they grade, what you bought them for. But it sounds like you've got them for cheap based on your comments. So best of luck with that. I think with that, we'll wrap up today's stream. So thanks a lot, everyone, for joining. And thanks most of all, Bonnie-tastic, for joining. I'll drop his channel link in the description. So make sure to check it out. And yeah, see you next time.